Hey guys, chat ahead for The Batman. We're going to avoid spoilers for the first half and then let you know when we get into it. Let's go. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of The Script Department. I'm Marcus. I'm joined today by Brad and Caleb, and we are discussing The Batman. Before we get into that, though, please consider subscribing to our podcast. You can get it wherever you find your podcast. Just search for The Script Department. You can also find us on our website, thescriptdepartment.net, where you can check out all our latest projects from our global network of screenwriters. And don't forget about our socials as well. You can find all of those links in the description below. So we've done that now, gentlemen. We are John free for the evening because he hasn't been able to get to this yet. So I'm going to start this conversation with a traditional highbrow question that we've come to love from this particular podcast. Tell me, did you miss the bat nipples?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know anyone who wouldn't miss the bat nipples modelled on Clooney's nipples. I mean, why would you miss that? Why wouldn't they include that?
Why would they not?
It's supposed to be a darker Batman. Of course, you should have the nipples on it.
I'd say, you know, it just stood out to me as a glaring oversight by the director. So, but you know, we'll pass on to it. What did we
goes the
think?
Academy Award.
Damn it.
That close.
So we're going to avoid spoilers a little bit for the first half here. We'll get into that territory later. So guys, what do we think from a general point of view here? Brad, do you want to kick off?
Yeah, I mean, I was expecting a lot from it. I liked it. I really liked it. It was very dark and gloomy, and it never stopped raining, and I felt really cold for 3 hours. But it didn't. Even in all that, it didn't seem to drag. It still kept it up. You know, it's a beautiful film. Gotham felt really grim, which it's supposed to be. You know, it's not like the neon Schumacher version of Gotham that kind of ruined it a little bit. It is like a really serious, grimy city. Everyone's dirty. I don't think there's 5 minutes where someone's not sweaty or covered in dirt. And it was a real... I guess it's quite a hard sit in a way. It's quite hard to get through because it's so long. You've got a sore bum at the end of it, so you're sort of like mirroring the pain and anguish that you're seeing on the screen. But it's, you know, it is. I don't know if I'll rush back to it, but it's still in my head. It stayed with me.
Yeah, I would definitely echo the same stuff. Gotham actually had texture and feeling. Felt like it had the weight in the script, not just the visuals, like in some of the earlier Batmans where, like the Schumachers, where it's visually interesting, but not much more than that. So yeah, I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed the noir aspects. We got to see him be a detective and in interesting ways without getting into spoilers, but which we might come back to. But
yeah,
but yeah, and then the opening was really cool. Just the way that it was done, the pacing felt really good to me, even though it was those 3 hours. It felt like it needed to be. So yeah,
I think it was. I found myself actually frightened on occasion by this film. You know, you mentioned those noir aspects, and I think it just works. It's one of those things where I don't know why it's taken until 2022 for a true noir Batman live action film to kind of come forward. You know, and again, without getting too far into those spoilers, there are those key elements. If you're a genre fan of noir, then you'll recognize a bunch of stuff there, even down to, you know, voiceovers and narrations and things like that, which I think just works so well. And you know, the Gotham backdrop there, you're quite right. It feels like a character, and it feels like it is dark, and it is all the time wet. It never stops raining, and it just lends so much. It just lends so much to this, you know, the texture of the world, and it's an old cinematography trick to, you know, for lighting and things like that. But it just brings something so special to this to this thing. I mean, the horror elements here. Batman. This is the most frightening I've seen Batman be, I think, and on a live action. I'll hold my hands up. I'm not a comic aficionado or anything like that. I know Batman from the live action films and a little bit of cartoons, a little bit of games, but primarily that's where I get my knowledge from. And this was frightening. You know, the kind of the shadowy doors and the and you know, the idea of him being everywhere. You know, did you guys have the same experience?
Yeah. I mean, I think they sort of try and do it in the earlier films, like, you know, like a magician, like pow, and some smoke will come up and it'll be gone. And it's like, but in this, he's like, I think even there's even a line where it says, "I am the shadows." You know, they think I'm hiding him in the shadows, but I am the shadows, and he's scary in the suit. Yeah. Like, you can see it's been pieced together. He's got, like, you know, unbranded Dr. Martens and stuff. Like, he's strapped this thing together, and then he's going out, and he's quite fallible as well. He takes a few licks in this thing. You know, he doesn't always have a plan. You know, there are parts of this film where it could have gone either way, and this could be the worst Batman ever. Okay, he dies, but you know, there were a few times in this film where he isn't. It's not all his own volition that gets him through a deadly scene. Like, someone will help him out, or you know, he'll get shot at a lot. Which in the, you know, if you look at Bale, like he's like a monster in that suit, and he doesn't take that. He takes a few beatings in the obviously with Bane and in Begins when it all starts off, but he's just like a tank, and he just takes people out. And then this Batman you can see he's quite emotionally damaged as Bruce Wayne and as Batman. It's, you know, there's a lot of anguish within him, and they don't, you know, hold that back. It's not like Keaton in his drawing room, like, thinking about his parents being killed. Like, he tears
in
up
the turtleneck.
Exactly. But Pattinson, he tears up a lot, even in the suit, like seeing things that remind him of his own anguish. He tears up, and it's like, oh my god, Batman's gonna cry, guys. Look.
Yeah,
he's very vulnerable, isn't he? Very, very vulnerable, and I think it's a testament to Robert Pattinson. I don't know about you guys. I didn't know how I felt about it when I first heard. I think it's one of those things that Batman castings in these films always seem to get kind of a bit of kind of hubbub about them and things like that. And I tend to try and ignore that stuff and trust that the filmmakers know what they're doing. And I think they've proved they do in this sense, because I think Robert Pattinson is an absolute triumph in this, and it's a very different Bruce Wayne to one that we've seen before, I think.
Yeah, like, touching on him being cast, in our first bat chat, we talked about what we were hoping for. And I got exactly what I was hoping for with with Robert Pattinson being Batman, like, or Bruce Wayne more, because I wanted to see this unhinged side of him where he hasn't, like, fully processed his damage and trauma from his childhood. And so going in, whenever he was cast, I was one of the only ones that I felt that I knew that was actually excited, because I want to see him break out as an actor of that Twilight stuff. I don't know if you've seen Good Time, but Good Time is amazing, and he's amazing in it. And so, like, that's what I was kind of hoping for with this translation into Bruce Wayne. But I think the most exciting thing for me from the casting standpoint was this idea of, like, so it's year 2. This is, like, in this Batman, it's year 2, not year 1, which is kind of interesting. So we're picking up, he's been going at it. And so, like, but he's still not great. Like, he's not fully, like, perfected his superhero, persona. And so I think the idea that was interesting for me for Pattinson was, that, like, Bruce Wayne never really grew up because of the trauma that he went through. And so, like, Pattinson has this boyish look, even though he's obviously older, he has that look of, like, somebody who's never really fully, like, grown up because he grew up an orphan, and, you know, it has all of his past trauma. So I liked that aspect that really intrigued me, and I feel like I got what I wanted out of that side of things.
I think they've gone. If you look at what Bruce Wayne is, like he's supposed to be really messed up. Like he's like a billionaire, which is like, way, but he's orphaned horrifically.
Yeah.
And then his parents' legacy is like drenched in sleaze. Like, and it's just, the city they built is the most corrupt city in the world. It's like the worst combination. And that is what he decided to do with his billions of dollars.
Yeah.
And it's just, this version of Batman is sad. He's reclusive. His relationship with Arthur's not great. Like, he's difficult. He's difficult to be with, and you kind of see that. They called him to begin with, as soon as the first trailer came out, the emo Batman, because there's a lot of shots of him sitting around in his eyeliner. But there is a aspect of that to it, because he's so emotional in and out of the suit, and it is very different. He's not a playboy. He's just he's. There's. I don't think it's a spoiler to say, because it's not a big part of the movie, but Arthur's sort of like, you need to stop doing this because the company's going under, kind of thing. He's avoiding everything he can to do with Bruce Wayne so he can be Batman. And I think all the musical licks in it and everything are fantastic. Like it was on the trailer as well, and it's in the film. There's Something in the Way by Nirvana. And the original soundtrack there are 2 tracks. So it's Michael, is it Giacchino? I think you pronounce it. Michael Giacchino. One of the biggest composers in the world.
We'll go with that, yeah.
Michael, the composer.
Mikey.
He takes inspiration from 2 tracks that are in the film, and that's Something in the Way and Ave Maria, which is the combination of the 2 is dark anyway. Like, it's a really weird combination. But there's so many points I was like, oh, that was like a little hook from Ave Maria. Oh my goodness, it's back into Something in the Way. It's like really amazing, like how he pulled all that together. Like it's so like the music in it's amazing, but the original soundtrack is just like a masterpiece. It's just really special.
Sure.
And that's
It's It's a very tight film, I think, isn't it? Despite its 3-hour runtime, it feels, talking in terms of the musical cues and where it kind of picks up from the tracks it's laid down and everything like that. But it's reflected, perhaps rather the music's reflected by the structure. The structure of this film is so tight. We've made a lot of jokes about in our Star Wars series about Chekhov's various things, but there is very much a Chekhov's object in this film. That perhaps we'll come to in the spoiler chat later on. But they do. It feels very neat, I think, and it tells a succinct story, despite that 3-hour runtime, which I have to admit I did struggle with a little bit. I think it takes a few liberties, and I think it probably, I don't think it needed to be 3 hours long. I think there are a few. For example, there's a shot in the trailer, so it's no spoiler. That I think it ends on the trailer of the Batman walking away from the flame, walking towards the camera, away from the flames, and it's upside down and everything like that. This iconic, where I'm going with this. This iconic moment, and it is iconic as well. That sequence is beautiful, but then it just sticks with it for too long, and you end up with this moment. Where I almost want to demonstrate for the camera, but I'm not going to do it. You just get Batman's face just drifting down into the camera, and it does somewhat take away from the drama of the moment, I think. But otherwise, did you guys find that with the structure and everything? How did you find that, and the runtime as well?
Yeah, I mean, it was knowing it was 3 hours up front helped. Because you've got to hunker down. Yeah. I don't mind long films. June wasn't 3 hours, but June was quite long, and I enjoyed every second of it. The same as I did this. I mean, my bum hurt a little bit more for the extra 20, 30 minutes or whatever there is. But you're right. The structure of it is very tight, and you can see, looking back at what he did, you can see why he went there. You can see the direction he went, and you can see the beats, and you can see where he was doing the act break. You could literally, it's a 3-hour film. It's probably quite easy to break up because it's an even number.
Yeah.
But you can see how he split it up. But I noticed a few times he hung on shots. And yes, I think the director can take a liberty by doing that, but there were some of them that made it feel really uncomfortable, which I think added to it. So there was him hiding in the shadows, someone looking in the shadows, him hiding in the shadows, looking at the shadows again. Is he going to come out? They look at the shadows again. No, it's still the shadow. Oh, now he's come out. And it's like you feel the fear of the people looking into those shadows. So it does give you that unease seeing it happen. You sort of put in that, right in that immersive environment of being scared of Batman.
Yeah. There's definitely, it feels like some tone, like almost like a tonal piece in some parts where it's just like even the opening, which again, I really enjoyed, but there's a lot of that's really just setting the tone, and it lasts quite a while and doesn't really give us any more like new information. So, but I think like where I landed was I was just along for the ride. I knew it was 3 hours. So I was able to sit there and just be like, okay, just take me away and to this beautiful place. But and like just the textures of Gotham, like we had mentioned, like I want to see more of that, even if it's not moving along the story for me, which might not for the screenwriting side of things move be anything profound for us to talk about, but so.
I mean that's an interesting point though, because what I found going into this is trying to work out where this sits in the post Dark Knight world, and because that's the last time all fair credit given to Zack Snyder and Ben Affleck and everything that happened there with Batman versus Superman and what came after, but that's a Batman that sits as part of a wider world, and so it almost for me doesn't count in the same way. It just sort of I don't know if you guys agree, but for me it's just sort of that's a thing. That's just it. We'll leave that to one side, and he's part of that. In the same way that I don't know that if you take some of the Marvel characters and you put them only in their own universe, I don't know if they'd work quite so well. So, but in a post Dark Knight world, how do you feel like this fits? What do you think this does in a way that how does this take the character in a different direction? And we'll probably expand on this in spoiler territory afterwards, but it's because I think we'll need to. But in a general way, how do you think the character is kind of changed, and what did it live up to your expectations?
I don't know if this is spoilers, but I feel like Bruce Wayne had an arc finally, as a character, because in other Batman movies and superhero movies, they've got to be a hero to us. So we have to like solve everything, if not before the movie for them, or, most everything. Sometimes there's like small stuff, but this one really felt like Bruce Wayne had a full arc that you could kind of track. And so like with other Batman movies, it's kind of like, if I think of Batman Begins, like a lot of what he's going through is like the first act. And then it's like, all right, he's Batman. So he's figured himself out.
Yeah.
So now he's going out into the world to change Gotham City. But so that's kind of what I felt like. I got a little bit of a different taste of Bruce Wayne growing as Batman and Bruce Wayne and trying to find that balance.
It's definitely more vulnerable for sure.
I think it's super interesting how they dealt with his story as well, because all of the films are like driven towards exposition, because it's like, how do we show this happened to him as a boy? How do we show that he built his first Batmobile? How do we show that his relationship with Arthur works? But they didn't submit to that in this film. It's still there. I mean, you could still watch this film and know nothing about Batman and still get his story from this film. But it's almost as if they went back to the drawing board and went, here's the character's arc, which is, it's a similar arc in most of them. It's like he's gone a bit crazy. It's a redemption story basically about the death of his parents, and he's there for a gentle revenge on the city, but it's they don't do that. They still touch on it, but they do it very non-expositionally, and they just sort of, it's just there in front of you, and you see it on a newsreel or something that isn't even, the feature of the scene. It's playing in the corner or something, and it's like, oh, okay, like that was really cool how they did that. They didn't sort of submit to doing the whole, if you dance with the devil in the moonlight and someone shoots your parents, that kind of thing, which they did a lot. Like they do that a lot.
Yeah.
They did that in the Bale Batman. Obviously, Batfleck didn't get his own standalone film. They might have gone there again.
They did even in the early bits of Batman versus Superman. I think in the credits sequence running up to it, you see that happening. You see the parents being shot in the alleyway. Yeah. It does
they did do it then.
Even in that film, they did it. In Batman versus Superman, I'm pretty sure they did Dawn of Justice.
Yeah. It was the slow-mo credits.
Oh, yeah, right. I don't remember that.
That's it.
It's been a while. I didn't go back to that one.
No judgment.
You didn't watch the commentary Zack Snyder did?
Come on, Brad. Are you even here?
It was fun.
I apologise. I didn't prepare, did I, properly for this?
Yeah, I think it's really cool because they do, and I think we're going to have to get into spoiler territory, and
I think so, yeah,
because we're just tying our own hands. So, for those of you who've come along and haven't seen the film yet, thanks for joining us. I hope we've not spoiled anything for you. We've done our best. So, spoilers ahead. Everybody who hasn't seen the film, we are going into spoiler territory. So, feel free to turn us off. Okay, have you gone? You've got.
Right, they're gone.
They've gone.
There's one left. There's one left.
Oh, have you?
Yeah, they've gone.
Okay. Thank goodness for that. Hi, everyone. So I think just to pick up from that point and cross directly over in the segue.
Yeah.
The what I really liked about this film is exactly the take on the origin story and the twisting of the legacy of Thomas Wayne. And I think that's because he's always in every iteration that I've seen, and again, not from comic books, I'm thinking strictly live action kind of Batman stuff. Thomas Wayne, Martha Wayne, the Waynes have been held up in this shining light, especially, a huge amount of Batman Begins is kind of about that and that character and things like that. And I'm sorry, in Bruce's character is kind of around his idea of his father. And I think they take that in this film and they go somewhere so interesting with it by basically smashing it up and forcing him to confront the fact that his parents were human. And they weren't this shining light, and actually their legacy has been corrupted. I thought that was so great the way they did that. Yeah,
I think there was some really interesting things that they pulled through from the comic books in this. And again, I'm not a massive comic book aficionado. I flick through a few, but I'm not like a super brain on the canon of Batman comic books or anything. But there are a few bits of this film that have pulled directly from that source material, and the Wayne family legacy, not in all of the comic books, but that was a story from the comic books. And I didn't know that his mother her family name was Arkham.
No, I didn't.
Which is like, oh, that's really dark now. What's going on here? Yeah. Like, it was really. I mean, that was like, there were quite a few things that they pulled through, and the Catwoman origin story is from the comics too. Like that's only ever been in the comic books.
That's really cool.
It's I think they've gone back to, like I said, they've stripped it back and gone, oh well, what are the stories we have, and then built it around the best bits of Batman, effectively.
Yeah, for sure. Like I just think that it's I'm really impressed with the fact that there's things that they've done differently, and I feel as though they got rid of the things that we might be expecting from a Batman film early on. And they swerved around a few things. For example, we mentioned it in the spoiler free bit, but his aversion to being Bruce Wayne. We have a little bit of that in the Dark Knight trilogy, and the idea of him as a character kind of saying, no, this is my true mask and everything like that, and the Batman being his true identity. But they really explored that in a way that I think that was beyond beyond just the surface level stuff, and especially his relationship with Alfred and Andy Serkis as Alfred. Big shoes to fill, but I think he just so great. So great.
He's a good Alfred.
Yeah, he is.
And he's a solid character there. And I would have been gutted if he died in this, but I'm sure. They're definitely going to save that until film number 3 of the trilogy and kill him off. I'm calling it right now.
You're calling it now.
He's going to be dead in film 3. That is it.
Yeah, because it's that kind of like that emotional Alfred like trope. It comes from is it Clooney's Batman? It doesn't come from this, but Clooney's Batman. Alfred's very, very old and frail, and he kind of nearly bites the dust. And then you've got the crying Alfred of Bale's Batman. Michael Caine. Thank you. Yeah, I was just thinking, what was that? That finale and everything. That relationship's so important, I think, and. I did find, and I'm gonna go criticisms now of this because I think we've been pretty up on this film so far, but it's not perfect. It's really not perfect. And there's a moment though, specifically with Batman, specifically with Alfred, where Bruce is sat with Alfred and Alfred's in his bed and Alfred wakes up and Bruce Wayne just turns around to him and everyone's thinking at this point, oh, thank God he's alive. Oh, it's so nice. Oh, it's great. Oh, he's there. Isn't this lovely? You lied to me. What? Whoa. And then they have this this conversation. And then suddenly, this whole time, Alfred's been trying to reach through to Bruce Wayne and kind of get him to talk about his feelings and his emotions and all this, that, and the other. And then suddenly, as if by magic, he just does. He just suddenly opens up. And I felt from a dialogue point of view and from a character point of view, that just in a 3-hour film, somehow that felt rushed to me.
Yeah, some of the pacing for some of the big emotional moments was unusual, I thought. That they that admission of what happened just tumbled out of him. And it's like, was he medicated? Like, what happened? Yeah. Was it nitrous oxide, like truth serum or something? Like, what went on? But yeah, it did tumble out of him. That was quite unusual. I mean, there were a few points that I found quite unusual with the, how long they waited to unmask the Riddler, because he's so good. He's so good when he's got the mask off. Like, you can see that he's studied, people suffering mental decline and psychosis, and you can his mouth shape when he's breathing and everything about what he does.
So disturbing.
It's really disturbing. And they waited 2 hours to get him out of that what is it, a camo hood or something that he's wearing.
Something like that, yeah.
And it's just what they should have brought him a little bit earlier, even a hint of it.
Yeah. And did you guys feel like we lost something once he was captured and not in the finale at Madison Square Garden? Is it?
Yeah,
like bit. Just like it being a faceless army now, which I kind of liked that notion of all of those people coming, but like there's no. In the superhero trope, like there's no big bad guy to go after now. Like that's already happened. Kind of shot their shot there. So
yeah, I agree. I felt like the stakes were a little bit less personal than I would have liked them to be, given that the Riddler spent the entire film trying to get Batman's attention, and he's he finally got it, and then he just kind of he's captured, and that's that, and I feel like. I feel like this film's better than that, and I do feel as though the third act does let it down a little bit. I felt like in the grand tradition of superhero films, there has to be this big third act battle and everything like that, and I knew it was coming because we were watching a superhero movie, and I knew it was going to happen, but I kind of just wanted them to stick the landing and not do it, and have a smaller thing, maybe have it, but and instead, we have a Joker-like plot a Bane-like plot to take out Gotham, and suddenly the seawalls have blown up, and it's all very contrived, and it's all and we and it's a strange illusion as well, I found, because the idea surely would be to wash Gotham clean, but it doesn't really feel like that's what he's doing. I felt it was a bit mixed, the third act, and I feel like it let it down. I think it's a bit of a shame because I feel like the film generally is better than that. You know?
Yeah.
I wonder how much the pacing was affected by, because they shut it down a few times, didn't they?
Yeah.
I wonder if there was anything, because actors have to get into that mode, and the directors, well, the whole crew does. They have to get into the mode of it, and if they've shut the whole thing down 2 or 3 times, then and they're like, right, get in the bed, Andy. We're going to do that's it. I wonder if there was anything that affected it, because, and I mean, there were definitely influences of the Capitol attack in Washington, for how they folded out the third act, how he used Twitter, and the things he was saying, and how excited people were about it from the Riddler side of things. It was like, oh wow, they've really sort of leaned into that, how social media can be like this tool of mayhem.
But I feel like it's almost a shame that wasn't it though. Like I kind of because they had the Penguin and the Colin Farrell. It's just wonderful. And where is he in that prosthetic? You just can't see him. Like but all of these other stuff. So in this film, you have Falcone, Catwoman, the Penguin, the Riddler, and a cameo that we'll discuss in a minute. And these kind of these it's five bad guys / other protagonists that you might go, and it had a whiff of Spider-Man 3 about it for me, and trying to cram in these things and everything like that. Where I think really, whilst the Penguin was just a mob boss as he is, and that's cool. I felt like it might have been stronger if they just focused on that Riddler plot line, and they just kind of and they just really explored that, and it became more about that detective story, because I wonder if something was lost there. I don't know if you guys agree.
I kind of liked the addition of all the other, like, of the Penguin and some of the other layers, because it kind of gives a little bit, like, builds out the world a little bit more for me, and sets up like the power struggle, and then the power grab that will happen eventually. That's true. In between movies or whatever, but like I kind of liked that, because it's set, if it's truly setting up this universe, that's how it felt to me. So
I think there was some establishing of villains for a franchise. So I thought the Penguin ended up slightly toothless with his terrible teeth in the third act of this film, because they sort of capture him, like Batman and Gordon sort of chain him up and leave him waddling around in his shackles. And at the start, he was terrifying, like just completely dead-eyed. He's only out for himself. You cannot trust this person. And there are people putting their trust in him, and it's like, keep away from that guy. And then towards the end, he's sort of a little bit toothless. He doesn't want his money taken, and it's very two-dimensional. And then the car chase is amazing. You can see that he's terrified of Batman. But there are, by the time the third act happens, he's sort of gone out a bit. And to my point, you can see at the end of the film they're going to put him in place of Falcone.
Yeah,
like he's going to be a new, head, or near the top of this crime organization in Gotham, and he'll be much bigger in the second one. But I mean, the scenes in the club. Oh, the club! I know the club. I know the club. I've been there like loads of times.
Really? What do you mean?
It's the Printworks in London. It's like it's an event space and a nightclub. Have you heard of? Do you know Secret Cinema?
Yeah.
Secret Cinema. They do it there. Like
no way.
It is. My friend who I've been with. We both live in Stroud now, and he leaned. Is that the Printworks? I was like, I think it is, and we googled it, and we were like, it is the Printworks.
The Printworks. Oh my god.
Yeah, it's. I don't think they're dressed in at all. It's just It's just like a big turbine room with loads of platforms and stuff. But most of it was filmed in the UK, I think, and it was I think how they made it look from the sets that they used was incredible, like Glasgow and Liverpool and parts of London, and it all looked like the States. It looked like an American city.
Is that why it looks so grotty, do you think? And why it was raining so much? Because they filmed it in grotty old English cities.
Where does it rain a lot?
yeah.
I mean, the rain was tremendous. Like the amount of rain they had coming in. I mean, there was one scene outside of the club, which isn't outside of the club. That is not outside of the Printworks.
You would know.
And they have a railway running underneath where the cabs come under. And there's like a strip light in it, and it's just showered in rain coming through from the tracks above, and then there's water coming out of it. And I was like, that you see that in a city and you wonder if it's safe because it's really grotty and broken. And they had all of these tiny little details in there. I just thought it was wonderful, like what they did with like the backdrop of this whole sort of detective Zodiac.
It's the noir
thing that we were watching.
That noir thing just comes across so well, doesn't it? And I think talking of the aesthetics, the thing that gets me is, I think we're very used to these kind of oversaturated CGI things of superhero movies and things like that. And, say what you will about the Justice League, that's certainly something it's guilty of, is that kind of very, very CGI heavy thing. And I have no doubt that this film is full of CGI, but it doesn't feel like it. And that I think is a real strength of this, is that it feels grounded and it feels gritty. And I think the rain helps it with that. And you're right, those little details there. I think this is the best Gotham's ever looked. I think this is the third time we've touched on this now, but I think it's worth touching on it 3 times because it's just so great and it fits so neatly with this incarnation of the Batman, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that it does come back to a screenwriting point of how the city is a character and is written into the script.
Yeah, for sure. That was an excellent screenwriting segue, by the way. There, that was I enjoyed that so much. Speaking of writing, the riddles of the Riddler being apparently this phenomenal kind of riddle making guy. Did you find they were a little straightforward and a little bit too a bit goofy and not really?
That was my question that I was hinting at earlier was because we got to see Batman be a detective. Like first scene, we he's looking around and we're watching him solve it in his head before he even though there's blood on the floor and he just walks up to it and just looks at it to hint to the officer who's taking pictures without even saying
That's
hey,
nice,
here so that was nice. But that was my question is with the riddles, he figures them out almost before we can even process the riddle and start to think about it.
I hate riddles. I hate being put on the spot with riddles. No, I don't hate. I love riddles, but when I'm put on the spot with them, I'm like, oh no, I can't do it. But this time I just went, he's going to get it. He's going to get it
don't even need to try.
Now. Yeah. But I mean, his whole persona in the crime scenes, a lot of the stuff he did, he wasn't welcome there.
No.
He wasn't welcome there. And he walks around solving all the problems, proving all their stuff wrong. It's no, that thumb was removed while he was still alive. Look at the color of the wound. It's a total dick move. It's not. He's not welcome. Well, maybe that's why he knows he's not welcome. So he's right, I'm going to piss these guys off. I don't know. There was so you could see there was he didn't mind the being uncomfortable. Yeah. The character didn't mind being uncomfortable.
I think that speaks to his social awareness, of Bruce Wayne not even knowing how to have a conversation with people.
Yeah, definitely. I think there are parts of him that didn't, like you said. I think you said he didn't grow up. There are parts of him that didn't develop, and it's really wonderful seeing what they've done with what Pattinson's done with the character. It's really, really different, and I like it.
It's so distinct, isn't it? It's so distinct. Your Keaton, your Clooney, your Bale, they all have they're all a little bit older. They've all kind of got themselves worked out. They've all kind of they know who they are. Even in Batman Begins, I'd argue that Bruce Wayne already knows who he is at that point, and he's going in. He's finding the kind of persona of the Batman, but he knows who he is. This Batman is so unsure of himself, and so unclear. And it comes across in the I really loathe voiceovers in pretty much every form. I really, really hate them. We did a pet peeves episode a little while back, and I did a true rant on voiceovers. But here, I'm willing to admit, I think it adds something, and I think it works. And that kind of the bookend of that is really great. And it's just he's so unsure of himself. I'll come back to it. And the thing, there's a physicality to him that, as when he's Bruce Wayne, that is that, and there's that bit where he's he's writing on the floor. He has the detective scene and all this, that, and the other, and he's doing all that, and he's got his shirt off, and he's not Captain America, and he's not Ben Affleck. He's kind of a scrawny kid. Yeah, he's in shape, but he's a scrawny kid. And I thought I found that so refreshing to not be punched in the face by abs, and just find kind of a more sort of realistic view and a realistic kind of physique that works with that character and kind of shouts at that.
I think they moved on a lot of the characters. So the Penguin didn't look like a penguin. The Riddler wasn't covered in spandex with a top hat going, "Riddle me this." They've moved away from that with Batman as well. But the one character that they sort of got stuck on the trope of who she is was Catwoman.
Yeah.
So Zoe Kravitz was amazing in this, so good. Like you felt like you knew what she was doing, and then it wasn't. It was like, oh, she's not. The reveal of her father and the reason she's in the club, and the fact that she's friends with the girl that gets killed by the mayor, or get involved with the mayor and then killed for that, and they still got stuck on the sexy cat lady thing. I know that's what her character is. She's a sexy cat lady that does cool.
Yeah.
But I mean, they brought her fighting style on amazingly, some sort of feline capoeira. I was scared of it. I was like, oh my god, she would she's beating the shit out of Batman. He's got body armor on. He's got a full bulletproof suit on, and he's feeling those kicks. But they still got stuck on. And it's just so telling that it's a female character as well. They got stuck on her being a femme fatale.
Yeah.
It's like she doesn't have to be that. Like, the other characters have moved on. Mm-hmm. Like, I hope we see more of her in another film, and I hope they do move her on. But, they dropped all the weird costumes for the other guys, but she'd still got the leather catsuit, a tight leather catsuit, and the cool motorbike, but it's still, the character we've seen already. Sure. Although there was a bit of edge to her, and she was very dirty and sweaty a lot, which was like, yeah, Gotham.
Yeah.
But, there was still a bit of the old Catwoman in her.
Yeah. There's a lot of there's definitely some male gaze at work there for sure, I feel like she does kind of get lost at the end. Again, it's that third act. It's that thing, she turns up right at the end and kind of helps out a little bit, but it feels as though, I suppose it's both a compliment and a criticism in a sense, because you get to a point where it's like, oh, okay, her story's concluded, and we move on to the next thing, and that kind of B story, that's done. Okay, cool. We'll go get the bad guy now. But it also happens so abruptly, and it's unfortunate that, or maybe not good enough that it's around that is so much about that female character that I think she's underserved a little bit, and I think you're right. She does get they do get stuck on those tropes for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, go on, sorry.
Oh no, you can go.
Okay.
Mine's a completely different thing.
We haven't. No. Well, I was going to move on. We haven't discussed yet the buddy cop action of Batman and Gordon, detectives in Gotham. And I mean, goddamn, I want to see a show. I want to see a whole thing of Batman and Gordon just partners in crime wandering around. This whole interpretation of their relationship is so far from anything we've seen before, and it's so advanced and so kind of well developed. I was living for it. I was sat in the cinema, and that honestly, the Gordon is one of the things that really pulled me through this. Not that I needed to be pulled through it, but that was one of the real things that really grabbed me about this.
Yeah, I think there's, he's great in this. I've just said no one else didn't move on. I guess Gordon's still Gordon.
Gordon's still
Gordon
Gordon.
hasn't moved on that much. But,
that's probably the most egregious.
yeah. But Jeffrey Wright is great. He is.
Oh man,
he's good as Gordon. I mean, arguably he could be Bernard out of Westworld, but he's not. He's got a police badge, but he's good and it works. And there's the whole relationship between them, the trust. That it comes up quite a few times where he's like, how can you? There's loads of more corruption revealed. He knows the police is corrupt. The Gotham PD is corrupt. Gordon does. Batman the Riddler kills a few more people, and he's like, how can you trust anyone? It's like, I only trust you. And this is a few scenes after he said, we've been doing this 2 years and I don't know who you are.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh my God, he knows there's so much corruption within his own police department. The only person he trusts is the lunatic vigilante with a jet-powered Dodge Charger. Yeah. And it's like, you're completely right. Yeah, and eye makeup. But you're right, that relationship between them is brilliant. You can see it unfolding, in front of us, and you can see it unfolding for them. And their arcs are sort of, we know their arcs are so linked to one another, and it's a great start for that relationship, I think.
Yeah, I find it interesting that like it almost feels like the Gotham City as a character is like the arc that's not completed, and it's going to be hopefully explored within the next movie or movies. Because we've kind of confronted this corruption now. That was the whole theme of this movie, which I liked the notion of like of him being vengeance and clearly saying that, and then by the end of it, he realizes that's maybe not the healthiest way to look at himself because of how he affects his environment and Gotham City. So I really liked that aspect of it. I thought that was like a really strong theme, especially like given the like just state of the political world within the United States, and seems relevant with just a lot of like, even just down to the theme of like how two different people can see themselves as righteous and vengeance and doing the right thing. So yeah, I really liked that. Like hanging their hat on that felt like a good arc to then propel Bruce Wayne as a character.
For sure, it's great. You mentioned the two different people having those different opinions. There's that great moment. There's a line in there where they're walking into something and Batman goes, "No guns," and Gordon goes, "That's your rule, buddy," like, or whatever it is. It's like, great, love it. You've summed up that relationship straight away, and Batman has these rules, but they are his rules, and he can't expect every. It's just, I love that.
Who does Batman think he is in that scene? Like, come on.
I know, yeah.
You got Jeffrey Wright with like a white shirt and some braces. And he's in like a bulletproof tank suit. He's like, no guns. He's like, whatever. I'm taking 2 guns in there.
Yeah, I got a submachine gun strapped to my back, man. And
I didn't think of that.
I love that relationship, and it's interesting. So we've spoken a lot about kind of where it goes from here, and there is the Joker cameo in there, and I've danced around this a little bit because I don't know how you guys feel about it. I'm just going to come straight out and say it. I hated it. I hated it so much. Oh, it was, that whole scene felt like it was something out of the CW or something like that. Like, I'm not knocking the CW. They're doing their thing and they're doing it fine, and whatever they're doing. But it's a very different tone to what this film is doing. And the whole kind of, you are doing this and you're blah blah blah. Oh no, come on! Like, and it felt as though it was just there as a setup for something in the future, and creating whatever the equivalent of the Sinister Six is in DC, the Injustice League or something like that.
The Rogues
there
Gallery.
Rogues Gallery, is that what it is?
Yeah, I think that's just like the catch-all for his villains. So
gotcha. Yeah, I just thought it was. I felt like it was shoehorned in, and it just didn't feel. Allegedly, there's a longer sequence out there, and it's been cut down that maybe will make that more worthwhile. I don't know, but maybe I don't know. What did you think? What do you think?
I think there was a slight whiff of the Jared Leto callback in the Snyder Cut.
Yeah.
Where they'd literally refilmed it and tacked it on at the end. It felt a little bit like that. I mean, it was more intentional, I think. But that the Snyder Cut was the end of something, whereas this is the beginning. So I think that they're trying to sew it in. But it was interesting how they did it. Like I think I can't pick one out of my head now, but there are films where they've brought in a villain at the end. For example, like Thanos. The first time you see Thanos, it's not Josh Brolin. It's it's a funny take on his face, and he like turns, and you don't see it properly. It felt a little bit like that. I mean, Barry Keoghan's he's a great actor, so I think they're going to use him. But the way they presented him, it almost felt like, are they sure about this? Are they getting ready? Are they they want to keep an ace in the hole if they want to change him at some point? Like, it was quite, I knew they didn't want to reveal his face because that's going to be a big reveal when they do bring him in. It was like a nod toward it. But I think, in the, is it Begins? You get, a little Joker card somewhere, at the very end, and it's like that was good enough. The Joker's coming, the Joker's coming, and I don't think they'd even cast anyone at that point. But that was slicker, I thought, rather than showing like a shady face hole.
Yeah, I think where it like might have felt weird like that, like you mentioning Thanos, is like it was a post-credit scene that happened before the movie ended.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, it felt like that should have been post-credit.
Yes.
And I think for me, like, I know so Joker with Joaquin Phoenix was like a one-shot standalone movie. But this is the perfect time to bring him back, like, in my opinion. Yeah. Like, Joker is king of comedy and Martin Scorsese. This is Taxi Driver down to the the Batman is Taxi Driver down to the opening and closing narration. Like, he is the taxi driver who wants to clean the streets and he can't process things properly. And so like that I was like, man, why is that not Joaquin Phoenix? Like, so
yeah.
You guys are a lot more diplomatic about that than I am, but I agree with you for sure. Like, I was a bit sad when it wasn't Joaquin Phoenix, because I think the two films, whilst they are different in tone, they would mix, I think, and I think they could be kind of pushed together there for sure. I don't know. I think maybe because we've talked a lot, and to kind of sum up a wee bit, I suppose, like, we've talked a lot about the future of this and kind of the universe building and things like that. For me, I was hoping this would be a one and done. I was hoping that maybe this would be a similar thing to the Joker, and that this wouldn't be that DC weren't going to try and create another go at the DCEU or I don't know, whatever they want to call it, on this occasion. I was hoping they were just going to make a really great Batman film, and I think that where I've struggled with this is where which is probably really naive of me to think that they would do that, actually, but I think where I've struggled with this is where things have been clearly pulled in there for the future. But I guess the question is, what is next with this? How does this work in terms of the wider DC universe? Does it fit into the DC universe? Is this the start of something brand new entirely? And kind yeah, what does the future hold for Robert Pattinson's Batman? Do we think?
I mean, it's all numbers, isn't it? Really, if it does well, there'll be a whole load more of them. If it doesn't, there won't be. I mean,
Yeah.
he's done a great job as Batman, and I think he deserves more. Whether they're going to redo the DCEU is another thing, because it's still running. I think there's still films to be released in. They're not doing phases, are they? But I guess it would be phase 2 of the the thing the thing that started with Dawn of Justice.
Yeah.
I'm not sure they're doing that. I just think they're going to do more Batman films. There might be some crossovers, but I don't know. It didn't feel like it would fit. I couldn't see Aquaman popping up in Gotham. Well, actually, it's wet enough for him, so it'll probably be all right. But
true.
I can't see the spandexy, shiny superheroes popping up in that version of Batman. As in though, you probably wouldn't get. Well, you might get a Batman in the Joker, the Joaquin Phoenix Joker world, but he wouldn't have nipples in the Batsuit, would he?
And isn't that a shame?
Yeah, like going forward with even just hinting at the Joker like they did, that feels like they're writing themselves into a corner, because we've got so much Joker in the past, and so many good iterations on him, even in the comics. Like, it's almost like, man, to kind of go back to that, it feels like they could have, strayed away with, even with having such a strong Riddler, like going with something that's a little less done, because there's so many good villains in Batman universe. I think for me that's kind of worrisome, because I'm like, I just don't want to see another Joker, because it's been done, and it's been done well multiple times.
Because I mean, that the last time we saw the Riddler, to my knowledge, is Jim Carrey in live action. I don't think they've touched on him since. They certainly didn't in the Dark Knight trilogy, and I don't think we've had him since. And so, for them to be that strong, I agree with you. I think it would be nice if they gave the Joker a bit of a rest. We've had some iconic performances. Let someone else have a play. It's it seems a bit of a shame. Well, there we go. I mean, unless you guys do you have any final points on the Batman, and any final points on Bat nipples?
Go on, Caleb, after you.
Well, not on the Bat nipples. So.
Fair enough.
But I am so glad we didn't get to see the Wayne parents die again. Thank God. I'm so tired of it. And the way that they did call back to it was great, because it came back to a character moment. It came back to showing and not telling, like through Bruce seeing this child, newly orphaned boy that he sees himself in, and then bringing that to a close within the third act felt good, and just felt like a nice little touch on his character, still telling the death of his parents. So
comes back to that great structure again, doesn't it? And that kind of the themes being so well thought out, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. It was really, really, the structure was fantastic in it. I mean, there was a few bits of dialogue that were super cheesy, and I was like, surely you could have punched that up a bit, but maybe they wanted some cheese in it somewhere. I mean, there isn't. It's a relentless.
Maybe they punched it down.
They're like, I want some cheese. There's no let up in this film. It's relentless when you're watching it. There's no levity or fun. Like, it's hard work. I think all of the other ones, there have been gags or jokes or light parts, or at least something. I mean, even like The Dark Knight, which is a masterpiece of a film, there's a Heat style action feel to it, particularly with the heist, of course, at the beginning. And there isn't really any of that. This is Seven, Zodiac. It's a hard watch. But I think I said at the start, I can't stop thinking about it.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
still quite fresh, but it's still there, which means I think it's going to age well. Whether that's just inside my head, it will age well, or whether, I think I will go back to it and watch it again. Not straight away because I'm terrified of parts of it, but I will watch it again. And I think that's a good sign. I think that's a very good sign.
Yeah. It's actually playing at the drive-in right down the road from my house, and I really want to go see it because that just with the Zodiac has the right feel.
yeah.
You're gonna lock the car door, right?
I got back because it's that long. I got back and it was quite late by the time I got back to my house, and I walked in. The lights are off, and there's this doorway in front of me, and it's just swathered in darkness, and I'm thinking, oh shit.
What did I do wrong?
Yeah, exactly. You are the shadow. Are you the shadow? But that's that's the side. I think we've come down pretty favorably on this, but there's certainly some elements that I didn't entirely agree with. But generally speaking, I think this is a damn fine Batman film. I think you guys agree, and I think the fact that we're still, thinking about it and talking about it, and the fact I'm now scared of doorways is only a good sign in that respect. So yeah,
agreed.
Right then. Well, in that case, then, thanks for joining me, you guys, for this Bat Chat Part 2, and thanks for watching, everybody. This was lots of fun. Don't forget to please go over to our website, thescriptdepartment.net. Be sure to like and subscribe. We've got new episodes coming very, very soon, and until then, I am vengeance. Bye, everyone.